after a game at Tennessee, I was sitting in the bathroom, almost in like the fetal position, and I was so like just distraught, so upset that it wasn't going my way and I wasn't playing well, and because I really had to ask myself, like, is this something that I really want to keep doing? Like, I could just not keep doing this to myself. I could just stop. I could just quit, you know? And then it goes back to my parents. If you start something, you finish it. So I knew I couldn't quit in that moment, but after the season, like, you could be done. You could stop, you could go get a desk job, you can go deliver papers, you can go do something else to where you don't have to feel like this anymore.
Welcome everybody to our second episode this season. Victor, I'm really happy to have you here because I think you have a lot of good stories to tell us what it means to be a professional athlete, but also how you grew up and the adversity you faced in your life so far. So really happy to have you here. First of all, how are you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me. Thanks for everybody showing up. But happy to be here and tell you a little bit about myself, and I've seen some of the other ones with the other guys, and just excited to share the story.
So let's start out with your childhood. You had two parents who have been athletes. How did that shape, being a child with two athletes, and how you viewed sport as, also a passion, but also somehow a profession?
Yeah, like I said, both my parents were professional athletes, so that was a realm that I kind of just felt like I was going into regardless. It was something that I wanted to do, but having two parents like that made it a lot easier. And then obviously the things that I've been through in my life has helped the transition be a lot easier. But no, they've been great, and from the jump they've been great in helping me out, throughout the way. And even now, both of them are very involved in helping me, be my best. So.
And then you moved from Texas to Illinois because of your mother and her job. Can you describe at that age how it felt to you and how it changed your perspective, about your environment and growing up?
I was really young when we first moved, so it kind of was a blur a little bit. I don't really remember much of it, but that was kind of where I grew up as a kind of a young kid, and figuring out what I love to do and what I like to do. She moved to a coaching job. She's a track coach, so she moved for a coaching job at her alma mater, where she went to school. They had just had really kind of just had my little sister, and I was only about 4 years old, so all of that is really a blur. But that was kind of where it started for me, where kind of really waking up and knowing that you're in the world kind of really started for me.
Did it mean for you to move out of your comfort zone, or later on when you switched schools? Let's talk about having a new environment and adjusting to it.
Yeah. So when I initially moved to Illinois, I started at a school when I got to a certain age and was there for quite a bit, and then I had a shift and changed elementary schools, and that was kind of the first real change that I noticed, going from different schools, because growing up I'd been with the same kids, played with the same kids, and been around the same group of people. And then it just kind of flipped and switched, and I had to change schools, and that was tough, being young and having a group of friends that you're with, and then it changing so quickly. So that was a change. I was young, so it didn't, it's not a permanent thing. You're on the recess and you're playing around and having a good time, and it just changes environment, and you do the same thing at a different school. So it wasn't too bad.
As usual, you probably played a lot of different sports, because every American child plays a ton of different sports compared to what's usually people doing here in Germany or in Europe. But can you describe the process of then later on choosing basketball as your favorite sport? Because I remember you said you actually, basketball was the sport you wasn't really good at compared to all these other things you've done.
Yeah, I played, American baseball, American football. I never really played soccer, never really got into, football. But I ran track and did all the other things, which kind of felt natural and came natural to me. I think basketball was the only sport where I had a lot of difficulty in. But it also was the sport that we grew up playing the most, I think. We were always on the playground, shooting hoops and playing basketball. So I kind of gravitated to that early. And, all the kids that I was with at the time. So that was a sport we gravitated to. And that was the only sport that didn't feel as natural as the others. And it kind of just stuck with me. And it was something that I've been wanting to do still wanting to do right now.
But I think it's a pretty unusual decision to, let's say I would, probably choose the sport I'm best at because I want to pursue that. But you choosing the one you're worst at, if you want to put it like that, what make you make that decision, and how probably also your parents, shaped or helped you make the decision? Well,
I think my parents did a great job of allowing me to play the different sports and allowing me to figure out what I liked and what I didn't like. Obviously, my mom being a track athlete, I've been around that for so long that was something that I kind of went away from a little bit. But like I said, being with the kids and us playing that sport, I said it did kind of tap at my competitiveness a little bit, that I wasn't excelling like I really wanted to. I felt like in the other sports I was, one of the better kids and stuff like that. In basketball, athletically I was, but skill-wise, I was just, as good as everybody else. And I think that bothered me a little bit, because you competitive, you want to be the best at whatever you do, and I wasn't, and that bothered me, and it was something that I just did more.
But you joined the varsity team, right? Could you explain a little bit for the audience and the people watching at home, the different teams in a school, and then also what it means to be a freshman and make the varsity team?
Yeah, so the school that I went to, nobody had done it before. There's a JV level and then there's a varsity level, so mostly, like freshmen, sophomores, even sometimes juniors will be at the junior varsity level, and then juniors and seniors, the older kids, will be on the varsity level, which is, 16, 17, 18-year-old kids. I was, I think I turned 14 my freshman year, and it was kind of just, that was coming from Illinois, so that was another change that I had coming back to Texas that second time.
So you moved again?
So I moved again, yeah. I was there from Illinois Texas was 0 to 4, and then in Illinois I was 4 to 13, and then came back and spent the rest of my high school in Texas. But yeah, nobody had done it before, and we had a guy that's still the leading scorer at our school. He went his sophomore year, so it was just kind of out of people's minds that a freshman would be able to make the varsity team, and let alone make the varsity team but play. And I was able to do it, and that was pretty cool.
How did your high school career then pan out? Because when you say that, you basically have two different teams in a school, and you made the better one as a freshman, which is not usual. You would think that your high school career is then also, pretty good, yeah. And then your translation into college, yeah, will be also pretty good. So can you explain how these years went for you up until college?
Well, high school was great. Like you said, it was an upslope the whole time. Starting out of varsity, I played a lot of minutes. Was starting, doing all the things that you want to do as a basketball player. Sophomore year went just as well. We made a really late run in the tournament. And then junior and senior year was basically the same, and I think I finished second in all-time scoring in my high school. So that was pretty cool. I remember breaking the record to become second, and the guy that's now third was there and came to watch and cheer on and stuff like that. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, it was an upslope. It was all good things, and definitely something that I expected to keep going throughout college.
What was your goal back then, or is there any, buzz already about dreaming about the NBA? Is there any reference where you could be like, oh, I've achieved these things in high school, I probably can make the league? Or was it more like, I got to focus on college first and then see what's happening later on?
Yeah, college, this is crazy to say out loud, but yeah, college was never something that I really thought about.
At that point?
At that point, yeah, because, I had, from a young age, I had offers and I had colleges reach out and have interests and stuff like that. So it was never if I was gonna get into college, it was which one I was gonna go to, honestly. And then growing up in America, all you watch is the NBA. So that's, the only thing you think about and the only thing that you want to go to. And I laugh with my teammates now. I'm watching more EuroLeague and BBL games and stuff like that. And in America, you never do it. You never think about it, and you never think about other basketball leagues other than the NBA. So NBA was the only thing you could, I had a thought process about.
But has there been anything where we were like, oh, I can really make it? In the terms of, I've seen other people doing, having a similar career path.
Yeah.
In terms of scoring probably, or the school you've been to, where it was like, oh, that's an achievable goal.
Yeah.
Because there are so many, I don't know how many kids are in high school playing basketball. Mm-hmm. But you only have 400 people or 500. Yeah,
I played AAU too at a pretty high level, and there was a lot of guys. I mean, I played with, multiple guys that are in the NBA now, and
how did you compare to them?
I thought I did pretty good. And I played in college with obviously plenty of guys. I could, list them off of the guys that were on my team that I played with that are in the NBA now, and practice with every day, and went up against and stuff like that. So, in high school, the ESPN rankings came out. I think I started at like 16. So I was like the 16th best,
of your class?
Guy in my class at the time in the country. And usually guys that are that high, are projected to be, draft picks and stuff like that. And I think by the end of it, I dropped to like 89.
Why is that?
That's just how it's how it is. The rankings go, and being on different AAU teams, and I've been on AAU teams where I played a lot, some where I didn't play as much, and it fluctuates. A lot of the guys that stayed at the top, some of them aren't even on there, and then some of the guys stayed at the top. The thought and the idea was always there. It was just kind of a win thing.
So then let's move on to college, because it sounds like you have a really promising college career ahead of you. Can you guide us through your first couple of years in college? Could you have that uptrend, or could you sustain it after your first years? Or, how was your experience back then?
Yeah, no, I think my first year I averaged like 7 points, which is not normally NBA numbers and numbers to get drafted.
So not that good, really?
No, and definitely not what I thought it would be.
What was your expectation back then?
I mean, expectation, you think you're gonna be a one and done and and make millions of dollars and, go live on the beach somewhere after. But I went there, I played, and I would say my first 2 years that I spent at the University of Oregon, they weren't bad. I mean, scoring 7 points as a freshman and the things that I did as a freshman and sophomore weren't bad. They just weren't good enough to put myself where I wanted to be.
It gotta be frustrating at some point when you have your expectation that your ability translate from high school to college, but then you're suddenly there and it's not working as you expected. Yeah. Especially then, when you redshirt also, which you've done too, which means you gotta sit out for a year. How did you deal with that?
The freshman year was tough just because you do all of the things that a guy that's on the team and is going to play does, except you don't play because you can't. So you practice, you wake up early, you go to weight training, you run, you get yelled at. You do all the things that guys do, but when it comes to game time and guys are putting their jerseys on in the locker room, I was putting a button up on. And when guys would go out to the court and warm up and get ready to play and do all those things, I wasn't. I was watching, and that was tough, especially because in practice you feel like you're doing well and you feel like I can compete and I can be with these guys and I can do everything they're doing and better, but I can't play. And it wasn't because I wasn't good enough, it was just because that was the rules. Yeah. So that was tough, just from a mindset standpoint, to do all the things and then not play. That was tough.
So after you transferred schools or college, what happened next?
After the sit-out year, I was at Tennessee. I ended up playing, and I had a pretty good season. I think I averaged like 10 points a game. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed my time at all the places, but I really enjoyed my time at Tennessee. And I had a pretty good year that year coming off the sit-out year. And then that last year was probably the hardest mentally hardest mental year that I've had.
Why is that?
I just wasn't feeling well. I wasn't myself. I wasn't able to do the things that I had been able to do in the past. And it got to a point where I've been able to battle it and been able to fight it. But it got to a point where I noticed something was really wrong. I remember, I'll never forget, it was at a practice, and we had a thing called cycles, where you basically just running up and down the court, passing the ball to the wings and making layups and stuff. And there were some people in the stands, so I was, ready to try and show off a little bit, maybe get a dunk or whatever. Yeah. And I ran up and down once, and I was like depleted. I was out of breath. My legs were sore. I was so tired. And I had my hands on my knees, and I was so upset at myself because I was like, man, you got people here watching you, and you got your hands on your knees the first play. Like, what are you doing? I'll never forget, I looked over at my teammates, and they were just standing up like nothing had happened. Not breathing heavy, not tired. And I was like, okay, something's wrong. I need to go get help. I need to see, what's wrong.
That was the turning point, right?
That was the turning point.
Have you felt similar to this before?
I had felt symptoms of it, of like, why am I so tired today? Yeah. Like, I shouldn't be tired. But also, Tennessee is a culture where you just play through things, especially when you're tired and not feeling well. You fight through it and you play through it. So in my mind, I was just like, I'm just gonna fight through it. I'm just gonna play through it, and this is how it is at a high level, and it's hard, and you got to get through it. But when I looked over and saw that nobody else was feeling that way, it was just me, I felt like I knew something was off. So I went and told my trainer, hey, I need to get tested, I need to get checked out, I need to, whatever we need to do, but this isn't working, brother, so let's try and figure it out. And then we ended up doing that and went to the doctor, and they came back and told me that I had a polyp in my stomach, and they didn't know whether it was cancerous or not, but they would let me know in a few days. So I remember going back to practice for like maybe a couple days, 2 days, like not knowing if I had cancer or not. So that was a little distracting in practice and stuff like that, like not knowing, am I gonna be, not here in a few months, in a year or whatever. And that's a difficult thing to have to go through in practice and stuff. But it was good. I found out, and they came back and told me it wasn't cancerous, and I was fine, and they were small enough to be able to remove it and not have to do surgery or anything like that.
But have you felt, you told me that prior to this, that state of being not able to do things like you used to do, body-wise, and then also mentally, because it's frustrating.
Yeah.
And that have been going on for a year or what? Something like that?
Yeah, I was having just a terrible year as a basketball player. I think I was shooting like 17% from three. And I could do that now backwards. So with my eyes closed. So I knew that wasn't good. But I was doing all the things. I was going in early, staying late, and shoot as many shots as you can shoot, and trying to be my best and just trying to figure it out. But it wasn't working. So that was kind of like the first hint of like, something is wrong, but something's really wrong. Not just mentally, or something is actually physically wrong with me.
But did you ever thought about, before that point, I mean, there's got to be a turning point where you're like, oh, there has to be something that's wrong, and it's not just something that's wrong in the sense, like you said, having the polyball, whatever. But have you prior to that ever thought about, oh, I might not just be good enough, or they are growing more, or getting tougher than me?
Yeah, honestly, no. I never thought that I wasn't good enough, because I had flashes where I was like, okay, this is how it's supposed to be. This is the guy that I remember. But then I would also have flashes of just like, I think it was less a basketball thing and more of like a body thing of like, I'm exhausted. Like, I know basketball is a sport where you get up and down and you run a lot, and naturally you get tired. But I was really tired. And it was just off-putting. It felt like something was wrong, and I needed to get it checked out. I needed to get it figured out. Like I said, the shooting and everything, it just was a culmination and built up to a point where I was like, I got to get it. I got to get it figured out. Got to get it checked out.
Then you told me about your mom.
Yeah.
In the context of that. So.
Yeah. So after I had got the diagnosis and they came back and you said, you're okay, we just need to get it removed. In about a year or two, you'll be back to yourself. And because they were like, you're anemic, your iron is low, so I felt I was gonna be fine. I was like, all right, it's just gonna take a year, I'll be back to normal. But they said it's probably hereditary, so your whole family should go get checked out as well. So my dad and my sister went in, they were fine. No problems, clean as a whistle, everything was fine. And then my mother went in and they came back and said she had cancer. So that was like, just your world kind of just stops a little bit. She's fine now. She got the surgery and she's cancer-free, which is great. But they end up telling me, if you wouldn't have came and told us the time that you did, if you wouldn't have came and let us know when you did, it could have gotten a lot worse. And, she could potentially not be here now. So all the stuff that I went through and not feeling well and, feeling like, woe is me and everything, I felt like that was a blessing. And thankful that I went through it, because if I would have felt fine and been playing great and doing all the things that I wanted to do, we would have never known. But the fact that I didn't feel good and I felt terrible and found out that I needed to get help, she got her help. So it worked out, and I would do it a million times over. And obviously wish we could have found out earlier. Maybe I could have not shot 17% in front of 20,000 people, but I'm grateful that we found out when we did, and that she's here, and because my mom's my world. So
after that whole thing where you probably also been doubting yourself, am I good enough to really play college basketball or pro basketball at the end? How did you finish off your college career?
So the year after I got healthy, I went to George Mason University and played for Coach Kim English. He's at Providence now, great coach. I had a really good year. I shot my best percentage. I think I shot 48% from three. I think I was like, I think top 5 in the country at 3-point percentage or something like that. So that also kind of validated my thought process that like I am good enough. And
back to high school.
Yeah, because you go so long with struggling and not knowing if we can do it or if you're good or not. And that year let me know, like, no, you can do this. You can do this.
So have you back then in the last year still had the hopes of making the NBA? Was it still your goal?
Yeah, that was definitely still my goal. Like I said, being in America, that's all you see, that's all you know. So going to Europe was just not a thought, honestly. And I was having a pretty good year, and I thought I could at least maybe try and do a G League or try and do a summer league and sneak my way in there. And I ended up breaking my hand. It was right before like the tournament and everything really got serious. So I broke my hand and I was done. I was done for the rest of the season, had to sit out, and that was the end of my college career. I had went my whole career without, with the exception of not being healthy, just hadn't broken any bones or twisted any ankles or broken any fingers or anything like that, so I could still play. But that was the first time where I was like, oh, I had a broken hand. I physically couldn't play. So
when it matters most, also.
Yeah,
to
when
be seen.
When it mattered most, and that was kind of heart-wrenching because I knew it was going to be such a long period of time that I was going to disappear from people's minds, and nobody was going to, I was going to be an afterthought after that.
So tell us about the summer. Probably realizing, your big dream of the NBA.
Yeah. So
come true.
I knew I couldn't. I felt like if I was healthy, I could have got there and proved myself and, shown people I was good enough to do it. But with a broken hand, especially my shooting hand, I wish I could play basketball with my right hand and shoot with my right hand, but I can't. So that realization was tough, and it was Europe. It was because I knew I wanted to play basketball.
But was it obvious for you? Because you said that you really hadn't, you really didn't have EuroLeague and other domestic leagues on your radar. So what was it initially your thought process, or was everybody else be like, Victor, you got to go to Europe, you got to find an agent, or how does the process work for you?
Yeah, no, I mean, I knew that I wasn't healthy enough to try to do it. And I knew that that I wanted to still play basketball. When I was at Tennessee and I wasn't doing well, I had to really look in the mirror and ask myself, like, is this something that you really want to keep doing? Like, you're having games where you're shooting off the side of the backboard. Like, do you really want to keep putting yourself through this? And I told myself, yeah. I said, this is something I want to do. This is something that I've been doing, and I'm committed. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. And when I'm an old man and gray, I can sit back and say it just didn't work. But it wasn't because I didn't try, because it is something that I love to do and that I want to do. And I said, yes, I'm going to do it. So I knew that this was the only option, coming to Europe, wherever it was going to be, whether it was in Germany or wherever. And I was going to do it, and I was going to figure it out, and I was going to, try and get to the highest level possible, that I possibly could. And, didn't know where it was going to be, didn't know when. And then eventually, my now agent reached out to me and said he'd, seen, some of my games and had been watching me for, quite some time, and, thought I could, really make an impact in Europe and play basketball out here. And that was something that I was excited for. I was like, I get to play basketball, so nothing else really matters where it is.
Yeah. So you then you then went to Belgium, right?
Yeah.
I went for your first year.
Yeah, I went to Leuven, Belgium, and I was there for 2 months, and I was there for 2 months and then tore 2 ligaments in my ankle at a practice. So it kind of got shut down quick again. I got healthy and my hand was feeling good, and I was back to shooting and back to feeling good. And then 2 months later, I was, getting helped off the court with 2 torn ligaments. Didn't know it at the time, and I want to say they didn't have the best maybe medical stuff to understand how severe it was at the time. And they kind of were just like, slap some tape on it and get back out there and play.
But to be honest, that could have really been the end of your career.
Yeah.
I mean, torn ligament means probably I don't know if anybody knows, but it means Bänderriss im Knöchel. And that means it's really hard to walk even. And then they made you play. With that. Just being taped, they gotta hurt so bad.
Yeah, it didn't feel good, for sure. It was very uncomfortable, but I didn't know any better. And I felt like I'd played through worse, I'd played tired, and I felt like I could do it. and I just take some pain medication and go out there and figure it out. And it got to a point where I wasn't helping myself and I wasn't helping the team, and they let me go. They sent me home. So that was like, again, another punch to the face, where it's like.
For how long have you been playing injured there?
I played 4 months on that injured ankle. Yeah.
And then they just release you.
Yeah.
So you go through all that stuff. You suffer a lot. You potentially, you could have twisted the ankle again, and it's all over for you, your whole career. And then to release you after that?
Yeah, going back to my parents, they helped a lot in it too, because they knew. They would call me every day and just be like, you don't look all right. You don't look okay. You're moving slower. Every time I see you on the court, you're limping. Like, what's going on? You don't. And I told them, and they said, if they allow you to come home, you need to come home. You need to get healthy, because it's not just about the year right now. It's about your career, like you said. At the time, I didn't think about it like that. I'm just like, I want to play. I want to play now. And they're like, no, you got to think about 5-10 years down the line. So their encouragement to come home and get healthy helped, because I also felt like I didn't want to, in a sense, let them down. Like, this didn't work, and now I'm trying this, and now this also didn't work. It's like I'm just failing at everything I try and do. And they were like, no, we have complete faith in you. You just got to come home and get healthy. It's another health thing.
So how long really took it for you to get healthy, and what's the next step? They probably sent you home in what, January or December?
December. Right before December, yeah.
In the middle of the season, where...
Yeah, in the middle of the season.
It's hard as an injured player also to get a new job.
Yeah. I remember my agent called me and he was just like, kind of quiet. And I was like, oh, that's not good. But I could tell that he was kind of like in process and thinking like, what do we do next? And I'm like, well, my agent's thinking, what do we do next? I really don't know what to do next.
Have you thought about quitting at that point?
No, never. Never thought about quitting. I just thought about how I was gonna get better. How I was gonna get better and who was gonna pick me up and when. And I think the only fear that I had was I didn't want to go back too early. And not be healthy and just do it all over again, because like you said, I could have went out there and tweaked it again and been right back in the same spot. So I wanted to go home and like genuinely get healthy, and I didn't. I got to about, I would say 75%, and my agent was like, hey, there's a team in Karlsruhe, Germany that wants you. We can get you on a flight. And I was like, I'm only 75%, but my 75, I think, can compete with people's 100, so let's do it. And I went out there and, had a pretty good season. And
so talk about that year, because you came late to the team.
Yeah.
You gotta find somehow your spot. You're, like I said, new to the team. You've come in off an injury. You're not your really true self. How do you adapt to the situation? And also, what were your expectations back then? Just to get back on track, or to be, really one of the top players there?
Yeah, no. Initially, when I got there, it was just to get back on track, just to get my foot in the door and get a feel. And every time you step on the basketball court, you want to be the best. So that's just a non-negotiable thought. But knowing that I wasn't 100%, I wanted to just get a feel and see how I felt. And first couple of games was not rough, but trying to get your footing. And Germany basketball is different than Belgium basketball.
Why is that?
Guys are a little more athletic. It's I would say it's a little more fast-paced a little bit. I would say just like the
way of playing also?
Yeah, it's a little more physical. I would say the guys that are from Germany are just a little more athletic than the guys that are from Belgium. I think the guys that come up from America are the same, and I've been playing with those guys for forever. But the actual players that are from Germany, I think, are just a little more physical and a little more athletic. So that was something that I had to get used to. And just prepare myself for, and end up playing better and better and better and better, and then found ourselves in the finals playing against Frankfurt. So,
So take us through the finals.
We had, I think we went into, when I got there, I think they were the 8th seed, and then by the time we got to the playoffs, we were the 7th seed. And then, so nobody, they had us losing to Gießen first round. And obviously that didn't happen. And then we had another round, we played well, we won again. And then we had Frankfurt. And it was crazy because all my teammates knew, except for me, that whatever the case was, we weren't going to be able to move up to BBL.
But how could you not know?
I don't know. I guess I wasn't in the loop. I wasn't in the circle. But that was really a big motivator for me because that's what I want to do. I want to play at the highest level, and I know BBL is one of those levels that you want to get to and you want to play well. So my mindset was we win this, and then we go to BBL, and then we try and win there, having no idea that that wasn't going to be the case. So we were in the locker room, and my coach said, I'm sure all of you know that we're not going to move up to BBL, and I was like, who was, I don't know. This is news to me. So I'm kind of looking around at everybody, and everybody has a straight face, and I'm like the only person like, what? Like, what are you talking about? So that was that lit a fire for sure. I had already motivation to want to win and want to win the championship and move up, but now that I knew that we couldn't move up and we should be moving up, that really upset me. And I wanted to take it out on Frankfurt. We did. Yeah,
you blew them out twice, right?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. So how did that feel, winning a championship at some point, but also not knowing, the really achieving what that should mean? I mean, it was kind of similar to Chemnitz. I think I told you that when we moved up to BBL, like we were crushing Pro A.
You're right.
I think we lost 2 games or so out of 28 or 29. And at the end, Corona came, and we moved up, but there was not like finals. I'm pretty sure we would have won the finals. Pretty sure about that. The situation where everybody's excited the last game, and then everybody runs to the floor and is happy and celebrating. But we never had that, and I can imagine that when you're going through that, and you basically blew them out twice, but you're still not really achieving what you're supposed to achieve. How did it make you feel?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, we did all those things. We, were on the court and we had the medals and held up the trophy and, had a good time as teammates and got to, really enjoy that moment. But kind of in the back of your head too, it's like it's not complete. It being complete is moving to the next level, and that it didn't happen. So it's kind of bittersweet, I would say. Happy and excited that we accomplished what we wanted to accomplish, but upset too that we didn't get to, complete it.
Did you thought about running it back, going back to Karlsruhe?
Yeah, for sure. I definitely thought about it.
Because we gotta mention you also won Finals MVP, so it's not like you just been playing there.
Yeah.
You actually played really, really well there.
I definitely thought about going just because it was such a great group of guys, and you never know what you're going to get going to new teams, especially a new team in the middle of the year. Guys can kind of look at you sideways, and is this guy going to take my minutes? Is he going to be shooting all the shots? And I never got that from them. They were welcoming, and if I had questions, they answered. If there were things I wanted to know, they were, they gave it up and let me know. And we had long bus rides. We had 7-9 hour bus rides, just crazy amount of time, but we were all just good friends at the end of the day too. And like when we went to play Heidelberg, I think like 6 of them came to the game, and it was cool to see them. And so they were just a really good group of guys. So that was a kind of incentive to like, man, I really like playing with these guys, and I want to do it again. But the ambition of just being a basketball player and wanting to play at the highest level initially was why I didn't go back.
So then take us through the summer coming off your injury, winning finals MVP, winning the championship. What have been your offers, your opportunities to go into the new season?
So initially, I was being told that pretty much most of the BBL teams had interest and were interested in me. And by the time we got to the end of the summer, it was none of them. And to me, that was kind of like how I was confused how it went from a lot to none. And my agent basically just told me, he said, I don't want to call it a fear, but they don't know. The product that I gave was the middle of the year to the end. And they didn't know if I could do it from start to finish. So that was a little frustrating because I felt like the most important time to be your best is at the end. And that's when I was my best. So I felt like that was really all people should have needed to see, but it just wasn't. And they wanted to see more, but Chemnitz was a team that was always interested from start to finish. Even when I went to Finland for 2 weeks.
But do you know why it didn't happen back then?
Yeah, they had a player here, and they didn't know if he was going to leave. They didn't know if he was going to stay. They didn't know if the spot was going to be available. And they just told my agent, like, hey, we don't know what this guy's going to do, and we don't want you to miss out on opportunities waiting on us. So, we think you should just make a decision and go whatever you have best.
Still went to Finland, but why Finland? Like, do you make then research and look at the league, if it's any good compared to Pro A, or what's your thought process on that?
The pitch to me was that it was a better league than Pro A.
That's what they said.
Yeah.
But how do you validate it as a player? Do you watch film, or do you trust them? Or?
Yeah, you got to just listen to your agent and trust. If you don't trust him, he shouldn't be your agent. So he told me that.
Bro, we've had stories here. Like, I think it was Chef. He had an agent when he was also in Belgium or Luxembourg, one of Belgium. And then at the end, he was in a hospital to get a shot or whatever, and it was his agent because he was working there as a nurse.
Oh my gosh.
So when we're talking about, trust, there can be some weird issues. I think it was the same for Wes. His first agent was also part-time agent only. So there are definitely some guys or girls that are not 100% legit. So that's why I'm asking, like, how do you validate your next step?
Yeah. I mean, it's a scary thought to walk in on here.
Imagine being there, getting your shot, and then you're supposed to do something else.
What are you doing here? But I just trusted him, and he said that this was the best thing to do, and this was a better league. And I told him my goals, and one of my goals was to play at a higher level. And he said, well, this is it. So either you can take it or you can go back to Karlsruhe.
So you go there, trying to get adjusted.
Yeah, I went there, I got adjusted, got tired of people telling me that it was going to be dark the whole day. But I was in for it. I was ready, and I said I'm committed to this basketball thing, and if it's going to be dark all day, it's going to be dark all day. Turn the lights on.
Yeah.
So I was ready to go, and then I was there for about 2 weeks, playing well and feeling healthy and doing all the things. And my agent called me and said there's a team in Chemnitz, Germany that has a spot, and they're very interested and would like to talk to you. And I said, should we talk to them? And he was like, yeah. So hopped on the phone with Rodrigo, the coach, and he basically told me his thought process and how I could fit for the team and how I could help.
What did he say at the end? Because you said that you only played, a little bit before the playoffs and then right the playoffs, and that most of the BBL teams skipped you because of that. Like, what was he explaining, or what was his thought process behind that? Yeah,
they were a team that was always interested. They were a team that never backed off because of that. They always saw that, or they made it seem like they always saw that I was, good enough to play at this level. And
they know, though.
Yeah.
We had so many players coming from Ukraine or wherever, from minor leagues, and they come here and they just pop off and go to other places. So what was it, what did he tell you what your position or your role gonna be like?
That it was gonna be a kind of a developmental learning thing, and that said they like to kind of have guys here for not just 1 year and multiple years, because it's something that you got to get used to. And he's a great coach, but he's a tough coach, and he's going to be on you, and he's going to expect the best from you. So it's usually an adjustment period coming to this team, because it's they get after it. They practice hard, and they're really serious about it here, which is something you want to be a part of. And I was excited about that. I was excited about coming here and learning, and whether I play a lot or don't play at all, it's I'll figure it out.
Yeah. So coming here, what was your first experience? Arriving again, kind of in the middle of a season. It was still early, but not training camp.
Yeah.
To a new team, getting adjusted again, finding your role. How did you experience that?
Yeah, I mean, Karlsruhe helped. Going into the middle of the season there is, like I said, it's a big change, and it's weird going into a team where you're the new guy, and you gotta assert yourself, but not step on any toes and do stuff like that. But again, I've been really lucky to be on teams with a lot of good guys, and this is one of them. And guys like Dre and Jeff, they've been more than helpful and giving me information and answering my questions and helping me through it. And it's been a great experience. And I played with Olivier in college at the University of Tennessee. So I remember calling him and being like, "Yo, what BBL team are you on?" He was like, "The Niners." And I was like, "Okay, I'll call you back." And I called an agent. I was like, "What team is it again?" He was like, "Niners Chemnitz." And I was like, "Okay, I'll call you back." And then I just kind of went quiet for a little bit, and I was able to tell him like we're gonna be teammates again, bro. Like this is that rarely happens. So that was pretty cool. And like I said, having somebody here that I've known for so long, and
definitely helps to adjust, right?
It really helps to adjust. Yeah.
So you said that they planned for you basically a development role, right? And I remember first time I saw you at the gym, I was like, "What the fuck is this guy doing here?" But in a positive way, like the way you were handling the ball, the way you were shooting. Because I was there alone, and I thought like how can he make so many shots that? And then you go into the first games, knowing that you're somehow a development player, and then you drop 20 all, I don't know your stat line exactly, but 20, 22, 20 again, which is like you're a top scorer of the team all of a sudden. Have you somehow expected that? Or how did you also, felt as a team where you're coming into as a new player, but then deliver like that?
I try and work as hard as I can. I try and, you saw me in the gym. I was in there, because this is something that I love and I want to be good at. Going back to when I was younger, it's something that I wasn't the best at.
Yeah.
So something that I think I have to work a little harder than most. So I always, try my best to be the hardest worker, wherever I go. And I think that's just sometimes can be a result of it. Sometimes it doesn't go your way, sometimes shots don't fall, but I think more times than not, if you put in the work and do what you're supposed to do, it turns out well.
And then I think we all know that in the system in the United States is different to what's going on here in Europe or Germany. In the States, it's more like self-centered. I gotta be the man, I gotta be the best player on the team, fuck everybody else, especially in high school and college, because you wanna be the one who gets the bright lights. But over here, it's more like team-orientated. How did that, how do you tackle that? Do you, set goals every single day to get better, to adjust to a team?
Yeah.
But to get, better in the context of a team, or how do you handle that?
Yeah. I like to try and set small goals for myself, so I'm more of like a daily goal person instead of like a long-term goal. Because I always say if you do the things. I like to focus on the path instead of the result. Because I mean, you can't control the result of things that come, but you can control what you do every day. I think being in Europe, like you said, it's more team oriented, and I think it really, I would encourage guys that don't end up going to the NBA to come to Europe. I myself love Europe, but I think it helps you just become a better basketball player. It really does, and if that's a goal, and that's a goal for me, is each day that I become just a little bit better at basketball today.
How do you measure that?
Like I said, the goals that you set for that day, whether it's, all right, am I mentally more focused today than I was yesterday? You watch film, you watch games, you watch practice, and stuff like that, and see, okay, this is what I need to get better at. Or you're watching other games and you say, man, that guy's really good at that. Like, I'd like to do that as well. I'd like to add that to my game. So today I'm going to work on that. Today I'm going to get better at that. As long as you try, as long as you do it, and as long as you do it at 100%, even if you fail at it, you learn something. So you got better.
To round this up, what advice would you give to somebody who's struggling, who thinks like, oh, I have this dream, but I can't really get there? Because you've been in a situation multiple times, right? When you had a surgery, that could have actually be a point where your career is over. When you broke your hand, could have been similar. Then your foot. What advice would you give to somebody who's struggling to achieve their goals?
I always go back to after that. I can't even remember what game it was, but after a game at Tennessee, I was sitting in the bathroom, almost in like the fetal position. And I was so, like, just distraught, so upset that it wasn't going my way and I wasn't playing well. And because I really had to ask myself, like, is this something that I really want to keep doing? Like, I could just not keep doing this to myself. I could just stop. I could just quit, And then it goes back to my parents. If you start something, you finish it. So I knew I couldn't quit in that moment. Yeah. But after the season, like, you could be done. You could stop, you could go get a desk job, you can go deliver papers, you can go do something else to where you don't have to feel like this anymore. Just through a culmination of my basketball life and everything that I'd done, I decided in that moment, like, I think I told you about like the ocean analogy, like, I feel like you're swimming out in the ocean and you get out to the middle of the ocean, it's like, you're not going to make it back. The only thing you can do is go forward or drown. So I decided I'm going to swim. I'm going to try to make it to the other side. I'm not going back. I'm too far out. I'm in the middle of the ocean. There's no going back. So I would say, ask yourself, is this something you really want to do? And if the answer is yes, then you just you got to go for it.
If you could tell your younger self one thing, what would it be?
I mean, something I'm still telling myself now, it's a process. And you're gonna have ups and downs, and it's not always gonna go your way, but I look at guys like Dre that's, well into his 30s and he's still doing it, and I've heard his story about how it's not easy, and it's never gonna be just an uphill, it's never just gonna be, glitz and glam. You're gonna have some rough patches, and you've decided this is what you want to do, and you're in it, and you love it, and just keep doing it because it brings you joy.
Cool. So, Victor, thank you very much for being here, telling your story, your ups and downs, your doubts, and how you really pushed through them. I really appreciate being so honest and open, because there are some rough patches in there, and I think at the end, and that's the feedback we get sometimes, that helps people actually. Like, I get DMs where they're like, oh, I saw this in a video, somebody has been talking about X, Y, Z, and it really helped to hear that for me to really, like you said, push through some things. So I really appreciate it. I appreciate everybody coming here, listening to him, everybody also on YouTube who is watching the video. You can also, really appreciate it also. Also thanks to Tomino again for giving us the space, for giving us the opportunity, and then we're gonna see you soon also.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Great, bro. Let's head out.